Welcome to the Cycles of Radiance podcast, a weekly conversation tailored for Gen X Black women and women of color who balance faith, family, friendship, career, and love. Through storytelling and laughter, we embrace the triumphs, challenges, and aspirations experienced by women of color. Your hosts, Joanna Kemper, Dana Middleton, and Stacey Givens, are faith-filled entrepreneurial women who are redefining success on our journey towards well-being. Find us on Instagram at Cycles of Radiance. Hey folks, welcome to Cycles of Radiance. As usual, we were in conversation. We started with one topic and then we got on another topic, and both topics are equally deep and have led us to even more questions and discussion. So we're picking one, and that is about vision. Stacey, I'm going to let you share, whatever you're comfortable with. What prompted you to bring up the topic of vision, and what do you think of vision? Yeah, I was watching this Instagram reel last night, and it was about a woman who, she said, years ago, I had a vision. And her vision was to bring HBCUs to California. And that is manifesting in this moment. And it was a very quick clip, but it spoke to me about when we have a vision that we cannot allow anyone else to deter us from it. As a much younger person, I can remember reading the scripture from the book of Habakkuk, and I've always held on to that scripture. It's one of my favorite scriptures. And Habakkuk is frustrated by some things that are happening to the people. And so he's basically says, I'm going to ask God what's going on here. And I'm just going to wait till he answers me. And I love how God steps into his questions, because we all have questions, right? We're all trying to figure out this life. And God says to him, and I love it because he's the one writing the story. And y'all know I love writing and I love storytelling. And so Habakkuk is the one telling the story. And he says, then the Lord answered me and said, write the vision and make it plain on tablets that he may run who reads it. For the vision is yet for an appointed time, but at the end it will speak and it will not lie. Though it tarries, wait for it, because it will surely come, it will not tarry. And I love that because we see so many things manifest in this world, and somebody had a vision to make those things happen, and they didn't let it go. Although it was tarrying, right? Although they were like, is this going to happen? There was that seed inside of them that said, just wait for it, because it's going to happen. You just wait, because this is a seed in your spirit to do this thing. You have a vision for it. You know what the Lord has placed in your heart to do. Other people don't understand it. You could have, there's all kinds of people throughout the world who have these visions to do certain things, and anybody else looking at them would be like, that's absolutely crazy. How are you going to go from a Model T Ford to like a combustion engine car? Like, really? That's not going to happen. And it does, right? Because somebody has a vision for it. And it just really spoke to my spirit about the things that I know I have a vision for, and the things that I know I have a vision to do. And I'm very careful about protecting it. This month, I will have been in Texas for 17 years. And I can remember in my 20s watching people come in and out of my hometown. They would come in and they would leave. They would come in and they would leave. And I was like, damn, when am I leaving? And I had this really strong desire to exit the state that I lived in. And people would come in for a year, maybe 2 years. And I'd be like, what happened to so-and-so? Oh, they moved. And I'm like, well, how come I haven't moved yet? And so I woke up this morning thinking about it. I was like, this month will be 17 years. And I can remember the journey of getting here, of all the years of wanting to leave and watching something happen for somebody else, whatever their vision was, being fulfilled and waiting for my own. And so to see myself now, all these years later, in a city I did not choose, thinking about how it unfolded for me to be here, and the pages just unfolded like a book. There was no major effort that I had to put forth. It was, you interviewed, they said, would you like to come? I said yes. They packed my house and I moved. It wasn't 14 interviews. It wasn't 6 months long. It was 2 conversations, a trip to the city, and I was on a plane and walking away from one life and into another. It was a manifestation of a vision. And I just feel like there are folks out there who have these visions in their minds of things that they want to see happen for themselves, for their families, for their communities. And it's a message of, don't let that go. Hold on to that. Though it tarries, wait for it, because it will come.
Yeah, gosh, so many things come to mind when you shared that story. I had a similar story with relocation and how there was ease to my move. And I think it trumps that argument that sometimes we feel that to accomplish something requires a lot of hardship and it's just difficulty. And what I
Mm-hmm.
have found that I'm moving in alignment with God, there's ease. There's work, but
Mm-hmm.
there's ease because I'm moving in alignment and He's opening up those doors and I'm walking through the doors like an obedient disciple.
Mm-hmm.
And when we think of vision, for those of us that, believe in God, it's those visions are really with God in mind, are God ordained.
Yes.
And therefore, it's also an invitation to walk closer with Him
Mm-hmm.
because these visions are pretty big, hard to believe, like you mentioned, and you wonder, like, how is it even going to come together, right?
Mm-hmm.
Which, yeah, because then that means that there's an invitation for you to walk with God in that, because that's the only way it's going to come together. It's out of reach for you as a human.
Yes.
You can get to a certain point with it, don't get me wrong, but you're not going to really bring it to its full magnificent potential
Mm-hmm.
unless you walk with God, because that's the whole point of it.
Mm-hmm.
Because He's more interested in getting us closer to Him and building our character to be more like Him than changing our circumstances. So
Mm-hmm.
whatever it is, it's like, okay, it's an invitation to walk closer with Him. How? let me get on board.
Yes.
So
Exactly.
it's easier for one, and then also it reaches its full magnificent potential. So when I think of vision, that's really what comes to mind. And also that um, they're persistent. So, like you mentioned, that it doesn't leave you alone.
Exactly. Exactly.
It's just there. It keeps on popping up in different ways from different people. It's like, hey, I've noticed this about you. Have you thought about blah, blah, blah? And you're like, what is this?
Mm-hmm.
You're in the middle of doing something else and this random thought comes in about the vision and you're like, my goodness, it is incessant.
Mm-hmm.
And with that, there's also like an infinite component to it. So it's incessant and infinite. It's constantly pressing in your spirit because God is calling you to do it.
Yes. Exactly.
He could have other people do it, but you're the one that He's calling to do it. Whether because of the experiences you've had, the knowledge you've had, the wisdom, whatever it is, you have the right set of ingredients for this calling. we may not feel like we have the right set of ingredients, but he does, because he is sufficient. So he's like, whatever you don't have, I'm going to bring it into the equation, because my name is going to be glorified as you follow in obedience. And then there's like this infinite component, because as you start walking with God on this vision, there's always more.
Mm-hmm.
It's like the vision starts unfolding, and there's more and more and more and more. It's like never done,
Yes.
and what a beautiful thing. So, I mean, what an invitation.
Absolutely.
What a
Absolutely.
beautiful invitation.
It's just such a, I don't know. We talk about cycles, right? We talk about all the
Yeah.
different cycles of our lives. And, I think that when something's placed in your spirit, it kicks off the beginning of a cycle.
Yeah. Yeah.
Because it's there, it's in the back of your mind, it's in your heart, it's in your spirit, and you're thinking about this thing. But then other things happen, right? You get
Mm-hmm.
distracted and you're moving on in other directions. And then to your point, someone else will drop a little seed on top of it, like, oh, have you thought about?
Mm-hmm.
And you're just moving through your life, moving through additional cycles, whatever.
Mm-hmm.
And here comes someone else with another piece to help round out the vision that that the Lord has given to you.
Mm-hmm.
And I just think it's so important for us to be attuned to that listening to that
Mm-hmm.
message, because these are things that we can miss. We
Mm-hmm.
can be so distracted by the cares of the world, what's going on in the news, what's happening at this college campus, what's happening in my neighborhood, what's going on at my church, and all these things we can get distracted by and really lose sight of what's been deposited in us that we need to cultivate and
Mm-hmm.
plan for and prepare for. And there's something about having this concept, this idea, and you can see it. You can see how it could come together. And to your point, it's never fully formed. There's it's a little hazy in some places, but you've got enough to work with to
Mm-hmm.
move forward.
Mm-hmm.
And I think for me, when I engage with people who don't move forward when there is enough, it agitates me.
Agitates your spirit.
It really does, because I'm like, we've got enough information to move on. Let's
I've
execute.
experienced that.
Okay.
Like, I've been on the receiving end of that agitation.
Well, we just gonna leave that right there.
It's loving.
It, I mean, like, there is enough. We have enough. Sometimes we're expecting like all of the picture to be clear. We want all the pieces to be in place, and it's like you have enough pieces to execute. The
Mm-hmm.
other ones will fall into place as you move. But if you're just standing there like, nope, I have to have a full puzzle, I got to have all the corners, I got to have all the edges in place, and I have to have all the pieces in the middle, and there's that one piece that's missing, you've missed the window. Move forward. You got enough.
You got enough. Because it's a faith building exercise.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
So you're not going to get the full picture. Because again, it's an invitation for you to walk with God
Mm-hmm.
and build your faith, build your trust. So if you have enough, you move forward in faith.
Mm-hmm.
And God is like, oh, great. Well done, good disciple.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Now, let me give you another piece. Or not,
Mm-hmm.
But you're going to continue walking in that obedience, and your faith gets strengthened in the process because you're learning to walk and trust God. But in doing so, also, He's transforming you. And so you're expanding your skills, but you're also shifting as a human being.
Mm-hmm.
Your character is transforming. And that needs to happen so that you are ready for next, right? Because the vision is infinite. And so the same skills that you have today are not the same ones that are going to carry you to the next part of the vision. inevitably you're going to have to grow. You're going to have to upskill. You have to transform so that you're able to handle the next step in the vision. So it's like you start the vision right now and you start executing and walking in faith with God. And 10 years from now, you're a different person, rightfully so, because you have been walking and building those faith muscles with God, and the vision has been unfolding. And
Mm-hmm.
it's totally different than what you could have ever imagined
Mm-hmm.
because he's the ultimate creator, right? So, like, his creativity and imagination surpasses all of ours. So, we're always thinking through this little lens right here. And he's like, I have a way broader lens. Like, you have no idea what I'm trying to do here. I just need you to trust me. Just
Yeah.
trust me and walk with me. I got your back,
Yeah.
and there's going to be redirection in coaching. Some of it is firmer than others.
For sure. For sure. For sure.
But it's necessary.
Yeah. I think that's the thing with kids too, is that, you know, children have amazing visions, right?
Oh, yeah.
We call it imagination, but these are really visions for the things that they want to do.
Mm-hmm.
And it's something happens over time. We've had this conversation before, but I think that's the beautiful thing about children and being around children is that they showcase imagination and belief, absolute conviction that something is going to occur. No matter how fanciful or wild it seems to an adult, to them, of course I could ride a purple unicorn,
Yeah.
and they have full belief that it can happen. Of course I can draw pictures of flying cars and one day I'll have one. And it's some of this stuff is like these kids are prescient, boy. They've been here before,
Mm-hmm.
but there's just such beauty in that, I feel, of just being able to recognize that, hold on to whatever that thing is. Don't let it go. Don't get
Mm-mm.
so distracted and crushed by what happens in the world or decisions that you've made, even that you feel are taking you away from your vision. Don't let that happen. Connect in with other people who understand, and who can help you bring it to fruition, who can put some of those puzzle pieces in place and encourage you that, no, even though the edges are and the corners aren't all there, go forward anyway. Go ahead and keep making that bread. Go ahead and buy that 50-pound bag, you know, all of the things, right?
Mm-hmm.
Other people may not understand, why does Jay have a 50-pound bag of flour? We don't have to understand. We know that there's a vision that's been deposited in you about bread and whatever that means. Bread has probably all kinds of extended meanings, but
Mm-hmm.
you knew, I'm buying 50 pounds and I'm gonna keep on pushing. It
Mm-hmm.
doesn't have to make sense to anybody but you.
That's really the case. Which is why you really need to be you need to be walking with God because people are going to look at you sideways, like, "What are you
Mm-hmm.
doing?"
Mm-hmm.
And you just have to trust. People call it trusting your gut, and I'm like, yeah, there's part of that. Like you got to know your own grit and your stretchability, right? But you're also trusting in God. It's like, well, if you put this out here, then you must have a game plan. Which brings me to the other point of vision, which is the mundane tasks that we do and how those are preparing us to execute the vision. And then also you brought up the point about the people around you. And so I feel like in that journey that we go towards our vision and walking with God, there's some pruning that has to happen.
Mm.
And that pruning may involve people, it may involve habits, it may involve mindset, it can involve a lot of things, but there's pruning that happens on that walk. Because again, he's trying to get you ready to execute fully on this vision. And not everybody that's with you now is going to be able to support you on that endeavor.
Mm-hmm.
And so there may be some pruning involved. And it's not that you don't love these people or like them. It's just maybe they can't hang along for this ride, and that's okay. So again, it goes back to trusting, oh, I need to change my habits here. I need to I need to move different. I need to think different. I'm going to have to expand my risk level. Like,
Yes.
you
Yes.
know, oh, I can't expand my risk level if I don't shift my mindset. Or I can't really shift my mindset if I don't spend time with God to help me in this transformation. So it's all coming back to the original invitation of walk with me, because that's the only way you're going to be able to pull this off.
Mm-hmm.
And then the other piece is the mundane tasks that we do. So there's a lot of, God doesn't work in a straight line in my experience. There's a lot of curves. Some
Mm.
curves are curvier than others
Mm-hmm.
with some steep inclines. So, or declines. And so I just feel that, so on those journeys, we may get stuck with some mundane tasks that we're just not happy with, but it needs to get done. And again, that's an invitation for us to look at, how is that mundane task skilling me up for other things? How is it shifting my mindset? What is the blessing in this mundane task? So, yeah, in making bread, I gotta mix the water and whatever. There's a mundane aspect to it. But if I don't do those mundane tasks of cleaning the bowl or whatever it is, I'm not gonna get to the final product, which is the delicious bread that we get to eat. So there's there's beauty in the mundane, and there's blessings in that as well, right? So you have laundry to do. Ugh, laundry, you know? But the blessing behind that is, A, we have washing machines and dryers now. I mean, back in the
Yes.
day, you were having to go to a river and scrub that thing, and you'd end up bleeding, right? Because you were scrubbing all these clothes and you had to hang them to dry. Now we have a washer and dryer. What a blessing. I have clothes to wash.
Yes.
That's a blessing. We have clothes, okay? You think about people in a crisis or a natural disaster, they're looking for the basics.
Mm-hmm.
I need some clothes, I need diapers, I need bread, I need milk. Like, it's the basics that people are searching for, in these situations. So there's we should be grateful for the mundane,
Yes.
because that points us to the stability and some luxuries that we have that we take for granted. So if we shift our lens a little bit on that, we can see the blessing and then the lessons that we can acquire through all of that. And I think crisis was the other one that I thought of when we discussed the vision, and how crises, they break our heart. But in doing so, it creates an opening for God to come through and shine his light
Absolutely.
and understand a little bit more of what his calling is in our lives. So, how many beautiful things have we seen come out of tragedy?
Mm.
You
I think we
know,
can just point to the pandemic and think
right?
about, in spite of the losses and death and illness and on and on and on, there were a lot of things that transformed our lives, and
Hmm.
there is no going back. The way we move is so different. Um, the normalcy of telecommuting and remote work from anywhere, the way we order our groceries, the way we pick up our food, just all of these different things that, to your point, crisis drives innovation. Crisis drives whatever that vision is somebody had. Because think about it, you can't tell me that somebody didn't already think about, we should do curbside pickup, or we should really be able to accelerate how people can get their groceries. it was already sort of happening, but it wasn't happening on the scale. But there was a vision for it that
Mhm.
somebody had to execute, right? Instacart was already there. People were already having their groceries delivered. I can remember when people were telling me about that years ago, and I was like, well, I don't want somebody handling my fruit. And they were like, oh, I don't mind people picking up my groceries. Pandemic hits, and everyone is like, I'm trying to order these groceries. Companies are having to figure out how to
Yep.
staff up for someone to go and pick up their groceries. There's all of these things that were shifting and moving and changing because of a crisis. And I think what you point out is that we have crises in our lives all the time. We have
Mhm.
aging parents or ill parents or situations that we have to address. And that crisis it doesn't have to breed stress and panic and more uncertainty and fear and doubt. It can breed, how do I facilitate a better life for my elderly parent?
Yeah.
What things can I do? How can I do this differently? It may shift how you spend, it may shift how you move, it may shift your day. You know what? I'm
Mhm.
getting up earlier because I need to take care of certain things for myself, for my own
Mhm.
self care, personal health. And then I leap into action mode for this other person.
Mhm.
But often that's not how we're thinking about a crisis, because I think we can get saddled with it and it becomes like a wet blanket, and we don't know
Mhm.
how to get out from under the crisis to be able to see differently and think about solutions.
Mhm.
And there's so much I feel happening in our nation right now, that the visions that people have, this is the time to begin to
Mhm.
execute them.
Mhm.
We are at such a pivotal moment in this nation with division. We're at a
Mhm.
pivotal point in the nation with constant vitriol in the news. We're seeing a lot of things happen, and this is the moment. Whatever is in your spirit to do that is going to enhance our quality life as a nation, as a people, this is the time to do it.
I like that you qualified that it's a vision that enhances the quality of life of everyone in this nation. So we're not talking about a vision that feeds division.
There it is. All right.
Okay. All right.
All
So let's be
right.
clear about that. I don't want somebody listening to this and thinking, oh, well, I have a vision. I'm like, qualify your vision.
That's right.
Okay. Now, we said earlier, visions normally are ordained by God, and they have an infinite component to it. And so if it doesn't feed that criteria, then it's probably not a vision, because we know that God is not one of division, he's one of unity. And he wants thriving for all his people. He loves all his people. So I think it's important to qualify that if we're talking about visions that can impact on a bigger scale. And visions they can impact our home, immediate circle, community, and beyond, right? And so the little changes are what causes this ripple effect that can have a broader impact. But yeah, I think God is calling his people to really, he's like, hey, I have a vision for you, and I have a vision for you, and I have a vision for you. I have a calling for each of you. If you execute in obedience, we can be moving things in a different trajectory.
Mm-hmm.
So we need to trust and move in obedience. And it takes effort. So we
Mm-hmm.
can't do it
Mm-hmm.
alone. It takes
Yeah.
effort. But it's possible. And it can be a very exciting, thrilling, scary ride.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely.
All the
Absolutely.
things. It can be full of joy too, as you see that vision unfold and really bring joy to other people, bring enhancements. It can bring so much beauty. Um, but we've got to move. We've got to execute. We've got to be obedient, and make sure we're doing things for the greater good. It's not
That's
just
right.
about us. So visions are beautiful, or they
They
can
are.
be,
They are.
and they're a lot of work. But man, to witness. I think we've all been able to witness a vision unfolding into its magnificent potential. And it's so exciting to watch, so exciting to witness and celebrate as that unfolds and even be a part of it. It's like, oh my gosh, it's beautiful. So, any final words, Miss Stacy?
I just want to leave our listeners with just the question for themselves, right? This is not about you having to share your vision with anybody, but it's about looking back over your life and seeing those places where it was coming to fruition, where you knew you had a seed of an idea and you have watched it blossom. I would love to hear from our listeners what that has looked like for them.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. And I think it sometimes starts revealing itself in childhood, but we forget and we push it aside. So I
Mm-hmm.
think if you do a real inventory of your whole life from childhood, you'll see where the seeds were planted.
Mm-hmm.
They've
Mm-hmm.
always been there. They just need to be nurtured now.
That's
Thank you,
it.
Stacy. It's always a good conversation.
Always, always. Thanks for being here, Jay. We do want to acknowledge that Dana is not here today, but she'll be joining us at our next call. She had some other things to take care of. So tune in next time, and we will see you around the Cycles of Radiance. We hope you enjoyed today's podcast. Our desire is to empower, support, and elevate you on this collective journey towards a fulfilled life. We invite you to connect and find community with us on Instagram at Cycles of Radiance.